I told you, didn't I? I told you so. Meghan and the forthcoming memoir. Yes, I've been insistent for years in the face of people telling me, no, there's no whisper of this, there's no whisper of that. Well, I heard from my contacts at Random Penguins, associated with Random Penguins, and way beyond, actually, that a memoir was always on the cards and always will be on the cards. And I told you even last week that it is not a question of if, it is a question of when. And I said that you need to be looking out around the time that the King expires. Around the date of his expiry will be the moment she moves. Mark these words. Mark these words. Remember where you heard it first. We'll look at that in a little bit. But first of all, we're going to start off with something much nicer, because we need to wish a very happy anniversary to the Prince and Princess of Wales, don't we, my dear? Welcome to the broadcast, my dear fruit crumbles. Welcome to the broadcast. Oh, fucking hell. Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. If I seem a bit prickly today, it's because I am. It is just one of those days, my dear, when everybody is testing my last nerve. I'm sure you know those days, my dear. Dealing with people, some folk. Honestly, my dear, we are not amused, are we? But I'm sure that you'll provide a refreshing tonic for me, won't you, my dear fruit crumbles? Well, 14 years, 14 happy years for the Duke and Duchess of Rothesay, as they are at the moment, because they're in Scotland, for the first overnight sojourn since Catherine's treatment. So that's very encouraging, isn't it, to know that they're out and about. They're actually staying at a self-catering cottage tonight in support of the local tourism, the local communities. And who wouldn't like to wake up on an April morning to find the Prince of Wales floating around your inner Hebrides, coming into harbour for a docking? Oh, yes, my dear. Let's all go a bit Meg Ryan, shall we, at the very thought of him docking around our harbour in our inner Hebrides. What a fabulous thought. But actually, it's our fair Catherine, isn't it, that gets those pleasures of the seamen, and they can enjoy being in the glorious surroundings of this archipelago. Oh dear, that's probably another word that was earmarked for the Archewell organisation, isn't it? The archipelago of Scotland, or the archipelago. Sorry, my dear, that's already taken. You can't copyright that one, but they're there to explore how the islanders are protecting their natural world, and to meet young families who are shaping the rural life and celebrating community and connection. Very royal, this is, very royal. With the journey beginning in mystical Mull. And isn't it a sight for sore eyes, my dears? A sight for sore eyes. Just for reference, for those of you abroad, the Isle of Mull off of the west coast of Scotland, and Iona, where they're going to be visiting as well. It's about 500 miles from where I sit here in London. So, you know, the kingdom's tiny. It's really tiny, but the fabulous thing is the diversity of the landscape within this tiny island, and all the surrounding little islands dotted about. It's the richness of diversity. Oh, diversity is our strength. They keep on with their mantra, don't they, telling us about the diversity of people being our strength. Well, that's all bollocks, of course. That's all bollocks. We were just as strong as a nation when the population was more homogenous, and in fact our national identity was much stronger. But when it comes to the diversity of the landscape, now that's another matter, my dear. The richness of character, from the balmy shores of Devon and Cornwall to the rocky, salt-splashed coastlines of Tobermory. We are truly spoilt here in the kingdom, and it's a feast for the eyes. They are also known as Lord and Lady of the Isles when they're in this area. It was 14 years ago today, the 29th of April 2011, at Westminster Abbey, when their splendid wedding took place. And of course, the best man furnished us with the details of the grim and sorry state of his membership. That frostbitten todger that was dangling as Catherine progressed down the aisle, furnished with that image of that butchered penis that I don't really want to think about on any given day. Especially today, so we won't allow it to stain the memory. You will not take that moment from us, Harry. Do you understand? You won't take it. The Royal Foundation's Community Impact Programme is providing grants for the renovation of facilities for the community, and this is Banjo Beale, What a strange name. Banjo Beale. He is a designer and presenter, and he's involved in all these goings-on. And he says it's an absolute joy to be working with the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales to redesign and preserve these vital community spaces. Together, we're not just restoring old walls, we're reimagining what's possible when community and creativity come together. I'm excited to breathe new life into beloved buildings and celebrate the island's warmth, resilience and quiet magic. Catherine likes her skinny jeans, doesn't she, like me? She was out and about in her skinny jeans looking absolutely gorgeous and very traditional there together. Don't they make a gorgeous and handsome couple? Absolutely gorgeous. Now, I wanted to update you on the Sycamore Gap because we've been following this story ever since the tree at the Sycamore Gap was slaughtered a couple of years ago now, wasn't it? It was quite a while. I've been following this. Well, there are two men who stand accused of felling that ancient tree, destroying the romance of the landscape, and scarring 1 million hearts as memories and proposals, vows, sanctuary, and a lovely vista were stolen in seconds, weren't they, as the old tree was slaughtered, damaging Hadrian's Wall as it fell. And we've been watching and we've been waiting for justice. Now, I've got to say that I do believe in innocent until proven guilty, and I haven't been following this trial at close quarters. However, I will say that there are very incriminating messages that are being offered as evidence, and all the evidence seems to point to these two as being the culprits, but I'll hold fire until the verdict is announced. However, they are on trial accused of causing criminal damage without lawful excuse to the tree of £620,000 worth of damage, and also £1,500 worth of damage to Hadrian's Wall. But let's face it, the damage they actually did was priceless and irreplaceable and irretrievable, wasn't it, my dears? They are accused of travelling to the site, which was 40 minutes out of their way, and they have expertise in the felling of timber, and they did so apparently with a chainsaw in an act of deliberate and mindless violence. Well, whether these chaps or somebody else is responsible, whoever is responsible for the Sycamore Gap, they are sick and more. They are sick and more, and they've got a gap where their brain should be. In fact, they must be some kind of sociopathic dolt to get up to some sort of mischief like that, especially at that age, at any age, but especially when they are grown adults. Incapable of remorse, I should imagine, so we won't find any of that. I think they're actually denying their involvement, but if they are guilty, then they should be locked up and taken to the tower, and they should melt the key. I decided something was missing today, my dear, so I've added a little curl so that you can see my tiara a bit more clearly. I hope that's all right. Was feeling a little bit flat, like a dog without a tail, to understand, so had to perk up the look a little bit. Before we get on to the subject of the Duchess of Sussex, which is where we're going now, I'm afraid. Did you watch the interview with Jamie Kern Lima? Did you watch it? Jamie Kern Lima has been in conversation with Meghan before, and if you're not aware, she is the co-founder of IT Cosmetics, and I think her net worth is reported to be about 650 million. So if you're wondering why Meghan hangs out with her so much, as we're told, in their great big bosom buddies, and hang around, as I did, I wondered, what on earth is she doing hanging out with another inane creature? But then I discovered the net worth and realised what that was all about. So she actually is a female founder with some success, unlike Meghan. Of course, there was a barefaced look for this interview, so we're told. I thought that I sensed a little rouge to the cheeks, but whether there was or wasn't, it was a no makeup look. And I like it. I think she looks wonderful, natural. I like the freckles, I like the lines, I like the expressions, and I find it more attractive than some of her more done-up looks. But it began with an oh-so-syrupy intro, just like one of Meghan's podcasts. So much gushing. And what is this thing they all do where they're listening to each other talk and another Meg Ryan moment. Everything they say, they're orgasming over. So gloopy. Such confection, so much sugar. A million fondant fancies couldn't compete with the sugar that they pour over every... I knew that was going to happen. I got a new stand-in to place my laptop on to record, and the only one that I could find to do the job was from the States. So I paid quite a lot for this stand, and then even more for the shipping. It was quite a high figure, actually, uncomfortably high, but it was the most sleekest design and with the best reviews. So I got it. It eventually arrived yesterday, and it's not the sturdiest thing in the world, as I'm discovering. And it's also not as adjustable as I wanted it to be. So I'm complaining, but everything is trying my nerves today. Everything. I've been waiting for a new screen to arrive all day. And do you know when it arrived? 2 seconds after I pressed record to start broadcasting to you. And I'd wanted to have it a little bit in the background today to test it out, to see what it looked like. A screen. Well, it was too late to do that because I'd begun recording. As soon as I pressed record, ding dong! Welcome to the broadcast, my dear fruit crumbles. Welcome to the broadcast. Oh, fucking hell. I haven't even had a chance to unpack it now. I ask you. It's just all going off today. And there is a very long intro in this podcast. It goes on for 10 minutes. It's not until 9 minutes 30 that the interview actually starts. And it's full of self-aggrandizement. And we're told that they are over the prove-it game. Meghan feels that she no longer needs to prove herself to anybody, and nor does Jamie Kern Lima. But in fact, what we find out is that the entire segment is a display to try and prove that Meghan is happy, that she is in love, that she is a beauty, and that she is the great and grand Royal Highness Adam Aziz. The introduction is puke-inducing. We are told that Jamie is a very close friend of Meghan's, and they share lots of time together rocking in their chairs, and that they want to open hearts and let the love in. And only lunatics would want to watch this stuff. Only lunatics. So they make this great big deal about the fact that Meghan has turned up barefaced for this interview. And yeah, I think she looks nice. It's a natural, normal face. She's not a great beauty, but not everybody is. Most people aren't. Not everybody can be blessed like a Catherine, Princess of Wales, or a Naomi Campbell, or me. You know, not everybody is privy to that sort of blessing. And Meghan isn't one of those who is privy. But she's perfectly fine with an attractive appearance, if somewhat frowsy. And she engages the smile throughout the interview. She's one of those we've spoken about before, with a constant smile all the time. She's got a bunny smile, hasn't she, my dear? She's got bunny rabbit teeth. And if you find people smiling all the way through their conversations in a kind of unnatural way, then it is usually because they feel that when they are in resting pose, then they look homely. They look homely, and so they smile to detract from the homeliness all the time, because there's charm in a smile, isn't there? And it makes the onlooker smile a little in harmony as well. So, you know, it perks up the features because they don't want to look homely, you know, if they're just sitting there with their natural, normal look. So that's why they employ all of that, because she's got the bunny rabbit teeth and she's got a masculine jawline as well, hasn't she? So she wants to try and deflect from certain things and not become her royal homeliness. She goes on and on about the fact that she doesn't listen to the news, she doesn't read the press. And she makes a good point, actually, about the amount of fake news out there. I'm afraid it's one of the things that I don't like about running my own channel, dealing with so many comments that come in from those of you who believe total bullshit and absolute lies and myths, which will all emerge one day, and you'll all see that I was right about all of that. But for now, I have to put up with loads of lunatics, which spoil things a bit for me, so I'm sure they spoil life quite a bit for her as well, because the truth is stranger than fiction, and there's quite enough disappointment in Meghan's behaviour without resorting to sophistry and wild conspiracy theory. Quite enough. So she makes a good point about that. But she says that her current wins look like it's an overnight success. It looks like it's just happened for me overnight, but folks don't realise what goes on behind the scenes. I have to focus on the granular, and I have to arrange my keepsake boxes, and I have to do all this out and the forth behind the scenes. And she speaks as if nobody understands a little bit about the most basic business process. Yes, we do understand, Meghan, we know. Perhaps your inane fan base don't realise. Maybe they're too stupid, the ones that you pander to, so maybe you've got a point there, but most of the wider world do realise what goes on behind the scenes. Who do you think you are, the Wizard of Oz? Jamie tells us that she witnessed Meghan in the playground at one of the kiddies' schools or somewhere, when some child fell down and hurt themselves or grazed their leg. Apparently Meghan was the first one to rush into action like Florence Nightingale. She knows exactly what to do. How do you always know, Meghan? She says in this sort of infomercial for Meghan and this propaganda for Meghan. You're such a star. And Jamie says that when she was under such stress and she had a full house of guests, and I expect the maids and the servants weren't doing their job for some reason, Meghan got in touch and she dropped her off a fruit basket. Of course she did. That's what Meghan does. She turns up with a hamper of fruit, or a basket of fruit. In this case it was strawberry sauce, some of her strawberry sauce and some ice cream. And of course this is where the innocent Meghan throws down the gauntlet to display her royal credentials, because the notelet that came with the gift wasn't one of her little handwritten humble notes. Why didn't she just write, "Love from Meghan, love from Nutmeg"? No, it had to be a card with the compliments of Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. And I'm quite sorry, but this is absolutely unacceptable. Do you understand? Unacceptable. Many of you don't realise that she is in fact Her Royal Highness. She remains Her Royal Highness, whether you like it or not. But it was also agreed at the Sandy Summit that that style would not be used publicly and not be used for commercialising. So she can HRH as much as she likes behind the scenes, but not when she knows that it's going to spring up for commercialising intent, as it has done, in my opinion, in this very podcast. It is so vulgar, it's so infra-dig. And as a reminder, Buckingham Palace said back in the day, the Sussexes will not use their HRH titles. Their HRH titles, it's theirs. It was not stripped from them. There was an agreement, as the late Queen lived and breathed, that it would not be used in a public style. They will not use their HRH titles as they are no longer working members of the royal family. And the distinction had to be made and has to be made still to this day. Is it not enough that she is dragging the king's grandchildren into all of her merchandising opportunities and her commercialising and her whoring? Now she has to brandish these 3 letters that she so disparaged in the past. I can't bear the trappings of royalty. We want to be free of it and we want to escape it and we want to go to America. Well, nobody is forcing you to use the royal style, Meghan. Nobody is forcing you. So why do you continue to do it and to brandish it? If not to try and troll us, if not to sully the memory of the late Queen Liz. It is a study in narcissism. It is a study in ego-stroking. And I'm talking about the whole podcast now. It's narcissism on stilts. It's ego-stroking. It's presented quite gently. For those who aren't switched on, she'll come across as rather likeable. It's very authentic and laid back. They will zone out so much these nutcases and fruitcakes that they won't actually notice the fact that it is back-scratching of the highest degree, brown-nosing to profound levels, with the probe of an anteater, brown-nosing so deep and so profoundly. Each other. They do it gently, but to many of us it's as subtle as a dumper truck. And the utter inanity of this podcast, the way they chat to each other, they're away with the fairies. But then this Jamie gal, this Jamie Kern, she's got to have some sort of credential. She's earned hundreds of millions. She's got to have something about her. But why does she have to talk like a baby throughout the whole thing with an inane smile? Oh, the voice of the girl. You've got to watch it just to hear it, my dear. Those of you who are convinced that the voice of young Lilibet was provided by a 30 or 40-year-old model standing in for her. Well, I don't believe all that nonsense, but it actually didn't sound extremely different to the voice of Jamie Kern Lima. I mean, admittedly, I'm old-fashioned, so when I think about American women, middle-aged women getting together for a chit-chat, I'm put in mind of the late Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, Katharine Hepburn. I watch those old interviews on YouTube, my dear, and I adore them. But, we're talking about maturity here. I suppose, this side of the shore, Glenda Jackson. I think solid, staunch, ladies and women with personality and beauty, but insight, some new ideas in their head and a maturity. You know, something compelling to say. This is an hour and a half of inane flattery and childishness. It's like a girly slumber party. You know, this is why I don't think that she is some, Meghan I'm talking about, not the sort of Machiavellian, evil, wicked genius that some people think, although she has elements of all of those things in some way, but really it is the fact that she cropped up and was inserted into a royal family that is full of mature characters. Autumn Phillips was not an American, she was a Canadian, but, you know, North American, different culture, different style. But she was mature. No scandal, no snot and trana, you understand? She was fine. And then Meghan rocks up, and she's the perfect foil for Harry, isn't she? Folie à deux, the two of them together, because he was the immature one. He was the weak link. You are the weakest link. Goodbye, says the girlfriend of Andrew Parker Bowles. Our Annie Robinson. You know, Harry was a weak link because he harboured such revenge and, you know, thoughts of revenge, thought of malice and spite. And he chanced upon the perfect accomplice, who also holds this immaturity. So as endearing as it might be to see her barefaced and prattling on with her friend in this sort of slumber party style, it also reveals the inanity, the immaturity, and the lack of womanhood. You know, it's girlish, it's not womanly. The royal family found themselves having to deal with two teenage tantrum throwers in spirit. Do you understand? This is what it's all about. Two nincompoops. That's why I try to find the humour and the comedy in all of this muck. The humble Adam Azee tells us, well, if I can come along with a sprinkle of fairy dust to promote worthy brands and save them, yes, if I save them and their business, then it's a huge honour. So humble, so humble. And then, oh God, and then she reads the words that have been given to her from Harry, a sort of love letter to her brilliance. Oh, my darling H, she says, my darling H, that man loves me so much, so much. Yeah, you've got him under your thumb. And then she makes the vulgar comparison to a Super Mario game. Super Mario, where at the end of Super Mario, apparently it says, slay the dragon, save the princess. That's my husband, she tells us. So that's where he got his slaying the dragon mission from, my dear, when he's fighting associated newspapers and all of this sort of thing. Super Mario. What was I saying about childish? This is where it all comes from. And we still make time for date nights. Oof, I really don't want to imagine them, lovey. Really don't want to. It's like a honeymoon period for us now. We're almost 7 years in, and it's like we're on honeymoon. We're like newlyweds. You've always been acting and behaving like newlyweds. Vulgar and brazen with your PDAs. Do you think you'll be married forever? Jamie asks. Yes, she says, with all certainty, all certainty. But then she really pushes it because she says he's also a fox. He's a fox, if you haven't noticed. Very handsome. No, we hadn't noticed. No, lovey. Not since the Sacha Walpole days. His heart is even more beautiful. Another letter is received from her children via H. So basically from H, but it's full of praise. Praise about how she cooks pancakes and she is the best mummy in the world. And she says, oh, I just love it that they use the English version, M-U-M-M-Y, instead of mommy, you know, M-O-M-M-Y. I just love it that they use the English. Well, what it's really telling me is that Harry wrote it. Harry wrote it. It was Harry saying mummy, wasn't it, my dear? Of course it was. Yeah. And she's moved to tears. She's moved to tears several times throughout this Gong show. But I got distracted by the closed captions because they popped up while the gal was talking about Harry with the name Harriet, which I thought was rather appropriate. Harry says that she's so much like Diana. Ha! In your dreams, lovey, in your dreams. The same as my mum. The same compassion, the same empathy, the same warmth, and the same confidence. She's a confidence trickster, love. She's a confidence trickster. Nothing is the same. Jamie asks Meghan if she watches any royal shows such as The Crown or Bridgerton. Now this is where Meghan wasn't authentic, because I saw her thinking about how do I answer this and how is she going to deny that she watches The Crown? Well, she says, I watch Bridgerton. She watches Bridgerton because she likes that it's a period drama. She skips over The Crown, but she forgets Harry has already furnished us with the truth. He admitted to watching some of that. Many years ago. I can remember it, my dear. So of course she was watching it as well. Why can't you just say, yeah, I watched it and I can't wait for my episode? She'll try and bring back The Crown so that she can play herself, won't she, my dear? Like she played Harry. And then it's on to the name question. She is asked about the use of her title as a surname, which is entirely in protocol and in keeping with how things are in our world here in the kingdom. Meghan Sussex, she confirms that she uses it more or less, very coyly, and she's asked if she still uses Markle at all. No, she says, no, not since I'm married. Jamie compliments Meghan and says, you're a New York Times best-selling author. But Meghan doesn't let her get away with that. She goes, twice it happened. And I can't even remember. I couldn't be bothered Googling it. What was the second book that she published? We've got The Bench. Presumably that was a New York bestseller. I guess she must be talking about Spare. Perhaps she's putting Harry into the mix as well. Whatever. And then the memoir question. She says, people are curious if I'm going to write a memoir. But I've got a lot more life to live before I'm there. So as I've insisted for many a year, my dear, the answer to that question is yes. Yes, a memoir is in the works. A memoir is going on in the head. Everything is being calculated and stored and reimagined for the retelling of her journey. Maybe over several volumes. It is coming. It is not if, but it is when she is there, when she's ready to tell her truth. Perhaps that'll be when people like the king aren't around to contradict it or to evaluate her recollections that vary. But at least we can breathe one sigh of relief, because she's asked if she'd ever consider running for office and she says no. Well, not that she'd ever have much of a chance, perhaps watching the word salad muncher, Kamala, her friend Kamala, get thrashed so very badly, put her off the scent of that particular ambition. The Duchess of Edinburgh was in Windsor at the Princess Margaret Hospital with mermaid waves to the hair and robed in fresh green and white Max Mara, and she unveiled a plaque to commemorate the hospital's 45th anniversary. And after a quick change on the same day, it was Max Mara again, in ultramarine this time, with a blazer and trousers, and Her Royal Highness opened the lighthouse in Aldershot in her role as patron. It's a community hub kind of affair. And she enjoyed this little interaction with 1-year-old Otis. Oh, look at those chubby cheeks, my dear, those chubby cheeks. Lovely, isn't it? And the Duchess was absolutely enchanted, as he was with her. The Duke, by the way, is undertaking engagements in the Big Apple. I think yesterday and today. He's been up to all kinds of tricks over in America. And the Duke of Kent has been out and about as well, my dears, not so far afield. He was at Windsor Castle, where young awardees were honoured as part of the King's Scout Award, which is the highest recognition in scouting adventure and skill development. His Royal Highness joined the Chief Scout, Dwayne Fields. Do you remember him? He's well acquainted with Catherine now, isn't he? To congratulate the recipients and to celebrate 50 years of His Royal Highness's work with the Scouts Association. And who's this handsome companion? He's quite fine, isn't he, my dear, this young buck? Bit of a stud. And thank you for studding me with your fruity company, my dear. Did you ever used to make cakes with Mama, as I did? And she would stud some of the icing sometimes with little diamond slithers of fruit confit. They used to sort of crunch in the mouth when you stole a few off the side. She would stud the cake with these little fruit, sugary diamonds. Nice little memory there. Thank you for studding my fruity broadcast with your fruity thoughts and with your fruity presence. And I look forward to seeing you in the next fruity show. Oh dear, I am a fruit crumble and a fruit tart, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Channel the royal spirit. See you next time, and toodle pip.